We are live. We are live. We're live on Facebook. Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, everyone here on Zoom and hello on Instagram. Welcome to Warriors of Light Show. Today we're here with the radiant, ever radiant Gogo Taz. Gogo Taz, yes. Welcome, Gogo, and everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Gogo Joy.
Hello, Gogo.
Okay, I hope it behaves now. Sorry, we changed the position of the Wi-Fi router before we started, so we've taken things back to the way they were, so hopefully nothing happens.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was
sorry about
like,
that.
oh my God. It does happen. Thank you, everyone, for being patient today. Yes, Coco. Okay. How are we feeling? I feel like we should start with like a brief grounding, just so we can calm down and allow the energies to settle, right?
Absolutely.
So, yes. So let's do that. Let's come back to self and close our eyes wherever we are. And take a deep breath in and out. And we're going to do the cosmic breath. And the cosmic breath is working with our third eye, imagination, intuition, by imagining that we're breathing from our womb. If you are male, you are breathing from the base of your spine, right? But if you're a woman, from your womb, which is our creation center, there's a lot of energy there. So we're just going to breathe and connect with that energy. And as we breathe out, we release this from our heart. And then we just continue again doing the cycle, womb, heart out, womb, heart out. We're just going to do 2 of the cosmic breath right now. So let's take that deep breath in and out. Again. And from still this point of our creation, feeling very called to the womb, imagining that with the womb there is a root, it's an energetic root, a cord. From your womb, we're just going to connect with the womb of our Mother Earth. So we begin by imagining from the womb going down through our feet into the earth like a root of a tree. We're going and moving and passing through our earth star, the thing that gets us connected to the mother, and all the way down to the womb of our earth. And typically you can imagine the womb of the earth as a big, huge diamond of crystal blue light, which we are connecting with, which we are sending all the energies, all the low emotions, anxieties, any worries we've had today, sending them back to the mother so that our mother can transmute these energies for us with unconditional love. And we also, at the same time, open ourselves to receive the crystal diamond core light from our mother. And we imagine that light coming back through our feet and throughout our whole body, all the way to the top of our head, and all the way passing our soul star, the energy that connects you with your soul, which is a couple of centimeters from the top of your head. And we open and connect with the great central sun, the heavens, the place of our God, our beloved God. And we open ourselves to receive the light of God, which is the energy we invite into the sacred space. We welcome into the sacred space and we speak with this light of God in our heart. We speak with our higher selves. We speak with the support of our spiritual guide, our ancestral helping spirits, and angelic light beings that walk and work with us. And the power of God, Holy Light, Holy Spirit. And so it is.
And so it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you,
Very
Gogo.
much there.
Yes.
Thank you. How are you feeling, Gogo?
I'm good, thank you. Ramu is checking up on me. Yeah, I'm good. Yes.
The tech guy. So yeah, so today we're talking about a beautiful topic, Gogo, which is the awakening to the path of the healer. And I'm going to try and open because we've got something for you that we're going to share in the screen today, which is going to be the guiding, our guiding tool for today.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that it's a continuation of the beautiful conversation that you've been having with everybody. And I know the first one that you had was a beautiful meditation where we're taught to ground ourselves. And I see that you always ground people before we start. And then you had the conversation about the chakras and how we are so colonized and connected within the root chakra because of our colonization, and that we always, as Black people, define ourselves from the other. So I'm hoping that as we identify as healers, we also walk through that path of healing ourselves and moving away from that definition. You also spoke with Mkhulumenzi when you're talking about how healing has been corrupted. You're talking about nurses. And I think the same applies to us African healers as well. You know, when we are removed from purpose, and you also explained about the slavery codes. That's how we identify ourselves. So how do we bring some joy and how do we bring unity of self into that process? Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's also interconnected and it's so interesting because it's almost as if our souls are all just connected. We're all processing the same form of like disconnection. We're all awakening actually to the same realization and the same desires of connecting more deeply with who we are, you know, as African people, who we are, also as spiritual beings who are having a human experience, right? So yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
so yeah. So let's begin. I have here, I think everyone can see this, the presentation. In my laptop, I don't have PowerPoint, which means that I'm not able to maneuver this, but I think we are all able to see this.
Yes, we can
Let
see
us
it.
know.
I can see it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So I will be the tech guide as we move through this.
All
so I give now to lead us.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. So the conversation I'm having today, I'm steering it away from our understanding of the healer being a Sangoma to the healer being everybody, because we all have soul purpose coming in. So this conversation is important because it centers everyone and it allows everybody to walk in their path. So I'm just going to take us through how we're able to make space for the new so that we can fully step into our own powers as healers, How do we ground ourselves within that? And I especially put the topic about the 4 bodies in there because I want Gogo Joy in her wisdom to speak to us through that, to see how we can become integrated healers. How do you notice signs that you get when you're awakening to your gifts? And this usually comes in 2 ways. So we'll talk about the first awakening and the second awakening. And then we'll talk about the different types of healers that we have. And I'm hoping that if we have time, and if somebody is willing and they're struggling to step into their gifts, maybe they can come on and we can help them identify where they are. And hopefully then that also helps everybody to identify with what type of healers they are. Then once you've kind of figured that out, how do you find a spiritual community that will uplift you, that will help you? And how do you constantly work on yourself to upgrade your system, to be in line with who you are becoming? What practices do you need to have in place so that you stay grounded as you're serving your gifts? And then we're going to go into the questions, and I already have beautiful questions that I got from Instagram, and we can pick up on the questions that come up. Oh, I thought I was controlling the tech. Yeah, we can go to the next.
Sorry.
Right. So as I direct this conversation, I'm really mainly directing it at Black people. Where are we in terms of our soul purpose? You know, African cosmology dictates that we're meant to fulfill our destinies within the different timelines. But because of how the world is structured, we've now moved away from our destiny because we are now drawn to things outside of ourselves, like capitalism. And capitalism speaks to the idea of pillaging, degrading people, and consumption. So how do we also come in and exist in those spaces, making sure that we're not adding to the rot, but we're actually also just uplifting and bringing in our gifts? And because of what we've been through slavery or through colonization, which parts of ourselves have we also betrayed? Because now we see ourselves as the other and not grounded in who we are as ourselves. Where have we self-harmed by moving away from our own destinies, our own gifts, and our own timelines? And this conversation is also important because healing and coming into our gifts also happens on a very subtle level. So we need to also be able to honor the little steps that we take. And for us, honoring our gifts also brings us closer to the Creator because we are also creators. This conversation for me is very important because we are operating off old codes. So how do we clear that? Because a lot of people struggle with, am I supposed to pasla? Am I supposed to talk to my ancestors because we're told that it's evil? So now how do we clear that, all those blocks, right? Because when we are called into our purpose, it starts clearing whatever it is that's in our lives. All right. The first thing that we need to do as we are moving into this path is you need to know yourself. You need to know yourself as you are and where you come from. So this is an inquiry of going back home, of going back to the family. For us, we have totems that allow us to know who we are and where we come from and what our purpose on earth is. So going back to that knowledge that we had. What's also important is we see that when people move into spirituality, we move away from our groundedness because now we speak of all these lofty ideas and we forget that we simultaneously exist in this third dimensional world plus the other dimensions. So that idea of embodiment, because we're not saying be a healer and be poor, be a healer and be destructive. We're saying no, be in your body still, but serving with your purpose. It's important that you honor your gifts. And the easiest way to find your gifts is, what are you interested in? What gives you joy? What is that wounding that you have inside that if I serve this, I'm going to feel better? And you certainly can do that alongside your normal job. And for me, personal grounding also means that we're not appropriating other people's cultures because we're moving in our authenticity. As Black people, we also connect to ancestral energy. And if we're appropriating things from other people as our central gifts, it's very difficult for us to get that grounding. So it's important that we know ourselves so that we're not also appropriating other people's gifts. And every day, constantly asking yourself, what impact have I been sent to make into the world? So before I go deeper, I just wanted us to ground ourselves again a little bit, if we can just drop into our bodies, so that we can invite our higher selves into this conversation. To make sure that in this moment, we're also inviting light and clearing any false energies and blocks that we have. What's in you that's been planted through colonialism? What's in you that's been put inside by the church through its misuse of power? What's in you that you need to clear because there are people that have said to you, you're not good enough? So in this moment, I ask you to clear any energies that you've tapped into that are not yours. I invite you to connect to infinite light and into true wisdom. And for those of us who've known and accepted our gifts, if we've abused these divine gifts, let's ask that we be forgiven from this abuse so that our gifts can come back to us and be restored in their full glory. Again, if we're working with gifts that don't belong to us, we can also beautifully release them into the light. Let's put to rest anything that no longer serves us, because it's only from this point that we can actually see what our true gifts are that we work with. Let's put to rest any blocks, any negative stories, any fear that may exist in our lineage, so that we can be the best us, the best light, and the best healers that we can be. As you breathe deeper, I ask that you rise to your true self. Allow yourself to reconfigure your energies, to breathe it in and reawaken your true soul purpose. Let's invite the Creator's true light so that we can constantly move back to the I am. And I'll ask you to take a deep breath. Then we can come back into the conversation, so that at each point we are also just searching and asking ourselves, where am I in my gift? What are my gifts? So that by the time we are done, at least we figured out some things. Okay. All right. So that was us just slowing ourselves down and honoring that and releasing our old selves. And on that note, Gogo, please, if you can take us through the 4 bodies to ground this conversation.
I mean, first of all, that was so deep. I went very deep with this grounding. And yeah, so I'm like, ooh, thank you, Gogo, for sharing all this. I love this conversation so much because there is definitely an awakening of the healer right now, particularly in this current point of our human evolution. And it's a beautiful process. It's also a heart-warming process and also a heart-breaking process because particularly for us African people, there is this return to our heritage, to our culture, to our history that has been distorted and taken. And so it's painful because you are having to figure things out by yourself. And it's so important for us to know that it's not even so much about finding as much information as you can about how can I be a healer, what is the process, but doing exactly what you just guided us into, which is coming to the body and coming to the wisdom of the soul, because that's where the answers are.
Absolutely, right? Gogo, yes.
Yes, so I love this so much. And so the body is so important in our path of awakening, and not the body as we know it, but the many different bodies that we have, right? We have many bodies beyond the ones that we see, which is this physical body that we use to navigate our world, to explore the world, and to do the healing tools and practices. We use the physical body, right? But beyond that, there are other bodies that we also have. We have the spiritual body, we have the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. And these bodies are particularly important for you when you are awakening, because in your awakening, that is actually what's waking up. It's these bodies, all your 4 bodies are rising up for you to recognize what is being held in your energy. And so you may recognize also what needs to be removed because it was installed there as a program from the horrific history that you and your ancestors went through, right? So part of the reason why it's always painful is because your 4 bodies are coming online. They say that, meaning that you are becoming aware of them. And in many ways, people who say that, who feel that they are healers or that call to the path of healing, we have always been aware and we've always had these bodies more active than other people in the sense that going through the four bodies. Let me start with the physical body, because that's the one we live with, the one that allows you to feel sensations, the one that allows you to interact with people.
Yes.
And after the physical body, we have the mental body. So I'm saying them not in the ways that they're written in the body. So yes, we have the mental body. And the mental body is the part of us that is thinking, the part of us that has belief systems, that has ideas, and that is always that part of you that's drawn to, let me go find information and let me go seek the different types of healers. Let me look for someone to help me with. That's your mental body. And the mental body is more about the ego and this part of you that is here to help you survive, right? Like it's about, I feel like I have a calling. I need to ensure I do this properly. Let me go find out. That's the mental body. And the thing about the mental body is that for most people, our mental body is filled up with voices, with belief systems, with perceptions, with ideas of the world, of what healing is, that are not naturally and organically ours. They are ideas from other people. And most of us, we just take that in without necessarily thinking more deeply about, does this resonate? And how would you know something resonates? Because the body will tell you. That's where the physical comes in. You'll be like, this is off. But most of us, we bypass that and we ignore that. Right? So that's the mental body. And then we have the emotional body. This one, Coco, you know this is my favorite body.
Yes.
I speak a lot about it because it's about our feelings. It is about our emotions. How are you feeling today? When someone asks you that, that's saying, can you look into your emotional body and just pinpoint what's happening there? Right? So when you say, I feel sad, it's the emotional body that's holding that energy. Right? So the emotional body is this part of us that holds our pain body as well as the love body. I call it the love body because there's also emotions of love, right? Of happiness, of joy, also in the emotional body. And then our spiritual body is the one that connects us to realms beyond this one. You know, there are many different realms that we go to. One realm that we all go to almost every day is the astral realm, when we go to sleep and we have dreams and we meet our ancestors. When we are there, it feels very real because we're using our spiritual body to travel, to retrieve information there. So that's the spiritual body. It's about this energy. It's about this body that is beyond here. And all these bodies, they work together. They're always communicating and always activated, because when one body is not functioning to its optimal, the other ones will feel this. And so if you're feeling sad, you start to feel in your mind a lot of the negative thoughts, the mental body tapping into the emotional. You start to feel heavy in the physical, and your spirit just goes down, you know? So those are the four bodies, and just a bit of understanding why they're important for us as healers to really know them intimately and to begin working with the purpose of aligning them, getting them to be in optimal well-being, because it's what we use for our work as healers.
Thank you so much for that explanation. And for me, that explanation was very important because as we are awakening, whether we're doing the work ourselves or we're doing it through a teacher or through a mystery school, we find that we're not integrating these bodies. And we find that, especially for people who've taken the initiation path, and I'm saying this to answer a question that came up to say, as we awaken to our gifts, does it have to be so painful? The pain that comes and the residual trauma that comes is because there is a large focus on the physical and on the spiritual bodies. And a lot of exclusion of the emotional body, because you are expected to bring these gifts online and you're not allowed to whine about it. So what also happens in many places with some teachers and with gurus is, because people who are healers are also wounded in a way. So if you do not use your discernment and you find a teacher that is toxic, who has interesting rules, and who downplay the emotional body and the responses that you may come up with when you get upset or when you get angry or when you don't understand what's going on. And they come up with rules of you can't have anger, no judgment, you can't talk about different things, right? So when you can't talk about that, you can't fully integrate who you are becoming. So just an awareness of what is going on is also important for people, so that the process and the transition into your healing is also integrated. Because as we awaken to our gifts and who we are, not only are we healing ourselves and aligning to soul purpose, we're also healing our bloodline. As we heal our bloodline, we're opening ourselves up to the gifts that also exist in our bloodline. Because now we are moving away from the idea of survival, the idea of especially the pains that we face in the, like in our limbs, with anything that's to do with our root chakra, right? So as we are moving higher, then we're able to open up our higher centers, right? So now, if you are not seeing the interconnectedness and the interrelatedness of all the different bodies, then you might leave one or two bodies behind. So it's important that you're always awake to that as you take this path. Okay, so what are the signs that you're awakening to your gift? So as you're awakening to your gifts, there is a straddling between this physical world and the spiritual world. You're easily overstimulated. Not only are you reading your own energies, but you're also reading the energies of other people. And I think the worst part also for people who are becoming awake is they start picking up the negative energies and absorbing negative energies that people around them have. And for a number of people, you also start getting visitations from the other realms. I really love the power of uvalo. Uvalo being this deep anxiety, right? Because when you feel that, it makes you pause. It should make you pause, and it should make you stop, right? So that you can drop into your body and understand, where is this energy coming from? Where does it sit in my body? So why I also wanted us to do that grounding exercise is, as we are awakening to our path as a healer, we constantly need to stop. We constantly need to ground ourselves so that we can understand the path. We can understand how these things are happening in our bodies. Where does it hurt? You know, where's the flow? What do you need to be activating? And nobody can give you those answers. You can only give yourself those answers by dropping into your body. So what happens with the first awakening, which is the gentler awakening? You start yearning for something deeper, right? There's a bit of discontent. You're at work, you're kind of thinking, oh my gosh, something is missing. You're just existing in the world and you can feel that there's something that's missing. And there's a deep feeling in your body and kind of a truth that you're aching for, however that shows up for you, right? Then you start searching, waiting for this rebirth, thinking, oh my gosh, there must be more, there must be more. And what I would encourage you to do when you're at this first stop is just to explore and be brave. Try out different things to see what's coming up for you. If you don't take enough time within that first awakening, the second awakening can come in a little bit harsh, right? Kind of to jar you into action. And depending on what gift that you have, this part you can walk on your own. You can ask somebody to help you figure out what's going on, or you can find a teacher, depending on what gift you have. So for people who have spirit position, who end up as sangomas, right, where you're possessed by a high vibrational being, you probably need a teacher to guide you through this, because your body has never gone through this. The spirit that you're working with has also never gone through this. If you're able to work with your different bodies, and this is about just your own energy that's rising, and it's calling you to bring in integration of your different bodies, then you can work through that. And we know that sometimes these energies come in as mental illness or as schizophrenia as well, right? So then the action is, how do you ground yourself? Where do you find guides? Where do you find practitioners and master teachers that can also work with you in order to lift your different vibrations? So depending on where you sit in the world of this awakening, is it your own soul that's rising, or are you trying to bring in also different energies to work with you? Then that shows you what you need to do. So first thing that you need to recognize is you were sent here to clear family blocks and to forge new paths. And I'm assuming if you're on this call, you are called to healing. That's why you would be drawn to the work that Gogo Joy does, right? So your job is to awaken humanity to its fullness. So if you're running away from your gifts, then you're also shortchanging humanity because you've got a big purpose to serve in the world. You're here to shift the world and the systems that exist because we know that the systems are not working. You are here to show us the face of the Creator through the work that you're going to do. You're here to deepen your rituals so that you can ground yourself, you can ground the earth. I love to ask people to create altars, to create umsamos, because that becomes a portal where things in the 5D world and the upper world can come and also influence what's happening in the world. But also realizing that the body is the first portal. So if we're able to take care of ourselves, then we're also able to download all these beautiful messages from the other realms. So with that, let's kind of explore what kind of gifts they are. The type of healers that we have. We've got the light workers. We've got the light keepers. And I compare these light keepers to, if I take it from Shona cosmology, we have these great spirits that exist to come and help us when we're in moments of despair. So when we have light keepers, they're able to call these Mondoros and all these energies to come in and help the earth. We have kings, people who are meant to be leaders. And these people are able to tap into the ancestral realm. We've got warriors, which also include prayer warriors. And these are people that liberate us, right? Who surrender themselves and their own freedoms so that they can help us in the world. If we look at soldiers who take up arms with goodness to defend places, and I don't know if there's anything that's justified at the moment to take up arms, but those people who lay everything on the ground for everybody so that everybody can be free. Then we have healers who are seers, who are psychics, who are clairvoyants, and all the other different ones. Then we've got people that channel messages for us, who help us to find out what the next step is for us as humanity. The people that also are dreamers. Dreamers are such beautiful healers because they also help us to see how do we move on to the next stage as a community. We look at the amazing leaders we had who had a dream for Africa to come together. They were dreaming us into being. We've got people who also love children, who love nature, who come into the world as guardians. We have people who give us art, who give us poetry, who give us creativity, that when we're in moments, where we have doubts about ourselves, they uplift us. We've got people who work with medicine, and we know that with COVID now, we realized that, we needed to know about our own medicines, and these are the people that came up and helped us with that. Midwives who birth people into being, earth workers, people who give us the food that we eat, who grow it lovingly and who grow it with ritual. And we also have protesters who come in as healers as well, because not everybody has that energy and can withstand going out into the world and protesting for world systems to change. That's why it's also important that we know where our gifts lie. Because if we don't know, then we're jumping in between different things and draining ourselves instead of actually adding to the universe and the earth and everything that we need to do. We've got people who are innovative, who can bring up new things into the world. We've got people that awaken us. I love Bob Marley for having awakened us into this. And then we have the dark practitioners and the tricksters as well that come into play. They come into play so that they can also awaken us to our shadow side, so that we also then go in and work on ourselves and the things that we need to work on. I'm going to take a pause here, Gogo, if there are any questions, if you want to add something.
Oh, I'm loving this so much. I love this so much because I know one of the, for us, when we're always in our conversation, we talk about the importance of knowing this information because of how when people hear the word healer, they think of only one archetype of what a healer is and what that looks like. And it's usually the Sangoma traditional healer only, you know, and so I love this conversation because it's so important for people to know that a variety of healers, there's so many healers in the world, and all of us, we are important. We're putting in the work that we're meant to bring to the world with the divine codes that we have as part of our soul blueprint. And like the path becomes easy because we're talking about why is awakening so painful. It is sometimes painful because we want to be that archetype that we are told a healer is, instead of going within and feeling, connecting with our higher self, with our guides, like our council of guides, and really tuning into what is your own gifts. And most of the time, when we say this, sometimes it feels like it must be something very elusive and strange that you don't know you have, you know. But most times, yes, some gifts awaken as you go along, but they're never that far off from who you've always been, you know. It's always there, and it's not as shocking as you might imagine. So I love this conversation because it's important for us to know that there are at most 12 plus types of healers that you just mentioned right now. So thank you so much for sharing. And for everyone who's watching us here on Zoom and Facebook, please share with us if you're having any revelations or if you have any questions so far on what Gogo has shared in the Q&A. If you are on Zoom and on Facebook, you can also just ask in the chat box. Not chat box, the comment section. Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. We can continue.
All right. So, when is the time to find a spiritual home or a spiritual circle? Nobody can answer that for you. Your soul is going to know because, you know, you've done the work and you still can't figure out a few things, or you figured out things, right? But you kind of feel lonely because sometimes as we step into our energies, right, we move away from the matrix world and we can no longer relate to people. So it's important that you find a circle of belonging. And what usually happens is because your senses are amplifying, your mind and the way that you think is shifting. There's also some physical shifts in your body, whether now you're feeling unwell, having problems with your feet, having problems with your kundalini, you know, on your lower back, or your emotions are just heightened, you know, or you're getting all these spiritual revelations. At that point, it's probably critical that you now start finding a spiritual home. I always advocate for your spiritual home should start within your family. If we all come here with purpose and roles to play, then we have these people that can hold sacred space for us in our families. First, search for those people there before you move out. If you can't find them in your home, then please pray about it and still use your discernment on whose circle or whose spiritual home you join. For me, the biggest thing is if your gifts are coming online, don't move in fear. Embrace them, because if they're here for a purpose to serve the world, then there's no room for fear within that. Walk in grace and love, like I was saying, always stop and breathe through it. Gogo, you always tell me that you're not dying, it's just the old self, right? That's moving away, that's transitioning away. And go to things that you love, that also put you in good, high vibrations. Because I think for us, it's important that we seek this Black joy. We seek to awaken our gifts also with a sense of joy, not with trepidation. Go to the things that you love, to the people that you love who support you, and anchor yourself in that. We know that part of the Kabbalion principles in terms of African spirituality is we must always use our minds. So please do not abandon your mind when you're doing this, because you still need to anchor yourself in that so that people are also not taking advantage of you as you're awakening to yourself. Your spiritual circle is very critical because it also determines your practices and what you do. So for me, if you're moving in fear, if you can go to the next slide, Gogo. If you're moving in fear, these are the things that I would help you in the spiritual practice is ask yourself this in meditation and in journeys, what is standing in your way? What of that is generational trauma, right? Breathe through it and ask yourself that. Remember, we are operating from spaces where we've been brainwashed, where we've been given codes as people that we're not good enough, where our families have also not taken up African spiritual practices. So we are also scared and fearful of going there. What is your type of medicine? What does your medicine look like? So depending on what kind of a healer you are, you'll know what your medicine looks like. So if you're an artist and a poet, it means you need to go away. You need to do vision quests so that you can sit with that energy and write and channel from wherever you get your guidance from. And where we also make a distinction around the people that need teachers in mystery schools is it another soul that's working through you? Or are you bringing your own soul purpose online? And before you do anything, it's important that you cleanse yourself in line with your meditation. And this cleansing can be through baths, cleansing baths, with your salts, with your oils, or it can just be through breath and movement. That's also very cleansing. Connect to your body and you will know what type of cleansing you need. Where is it heavy, Start meditating yourself into being. Start imagining what that next timeline you is going to look like, especially when you let go of the fears. And gently and slowly start moving towards that. As you release the old, please upgrade your belief systems as well, right? So whatever you thought of when you were young, or whatever you thought of when you were on the other side of your gift, you start to slowly let go of that so that you can move into your new self that you're becoming. What I find important is we also need to release the energy of other people, the people that are around us, the judgments, the voices, the old codes that are running in our heads, right? Unbind yourself so that you can fully step into who you are and who you're becoming. Only when you've created that space can you now then invite new relationships to come in, the new you. And these new relationships are also new relationships, deepening relationships with your guides as well. Find and connect with your guides. Again, I go back to dropping into your body, to breath work, to being out in nature, waterfalls, to be in the forest, because this is where you envision the new you. This is where you connect. So when you go for that hike, go with intention. And when you go with other people, just ask for 30 minutes by yourself, where you journal, where you're able to be in silence, where you're able to meditate and find yourself. Intuit yourself into being. Think of your dream signs. What are they pointing out to? Because the more you start connecting on this physical plane, the more things are also revealed in your dreams or your visions. And then sit in that change with love, right? And start radiating that love. And people will start to see the difference in you and how you are. And then they'll also be moved by that. And once you get to that point of, whew, I kind of feel comfortable, right? Start that over again in terms of, okay, I think it's time for the next elevation. What's standing in the way? Who am I now becoming? What are my new gifts that I'm bringing online? Because that's the thing about when we allow ourselves to operate with spirit, new gifts are always coming online. And if we allow ourselves to go through that, then we're able to embody all of that. And what happens is, as we're bringing our gifts online, there's a magical thing that happens where there's things that we think we've done wrong in the past. They sort of come back so that we can course correct and self-correct that. So if you're constantly allowing yourself to drop into your body, you will notice the signs of the things that are coming back again. That is the spiritual practice, Gogo, of coming into your gifts as I see it and as I practice it. Because even though part of me is an initiated Sangoma, it's a small part of who I am. I think it's actually 10% of who I am. But the other gifts that also keep coming online are of greater service to the world. And I constantly have to work through the old codes. So we all constantly have to do that. Just one thing that I also wanted to talk about is the idea of embodiment as we're stepping into our gifts. It's very important that we are in our bodies and that we're also figuring things out in our bodies and not just being disassociative, right? And saying now we're in this spiritual space. How do we do that? We start by owning our crap, because sometimes we operate in the world as victims, but sometimes we are the ones who are victimizing other people. Everybody has narcissistic tendencies within themselves. If we can also study the narcissist within us, then that's also going to be liberating for ourselves. Experience the wholeness of your body, because we can't be ascending in our gifts when we are also not grounded. So the practice of grounding is important. That's why for us, even as medicine, umpepo is important, tobacco is important, because it reminds us to always ground ourselves before we have all these lofty ideas. You belong to a lineage, you belong to a family. See how you can add to that first before you also go and add into the world, because that's where also your magic lies. And for me, I'd rather have grounded spirituality, because whenever I'm confused, I always go back to how Mother Nature operates. I always go back to the Mother Nature meditations, because they bring me back to my responsibilities. Meditating for a healthy ego, the application of the mind without any spiritual bypassing, that if something happens, then we say, no, but it's spirit that did this. So for me, that is the importance of embodiment as you enter into your gifts.
Wow. Oh, I love this so much. Let me stop and shift for now. So we're back here, so we can begin receiving the questions and seeing them. Yes. Yeah, this is so good. So let me start with the question from Siyabonga. He is asking, are there any ways, okay. I thought thought in my country it might be both female and Are there any ways, Gogo, you can recommend to work through fear and doubts?
Fear and doubts about your own gifts. You know, like how we spoke about the root chakra, I noticed that a lot of our fears and a lot of our doubts are not coming just from ourselves. They're coming from our bloodline. They're coming from people that were never able to fully recognize their gifts. They were never able to fully embody their gifts. And I'm yet to see anyone who comes into their gifts, especially along the African spiritual path, who doesn't have fear. And I think, you know, when I spoke about the second awakening, that's why the awakening that comes after the first awakening in any case is a bit jarring, because we are hesitant towards moving our dreams, towards our gifts. For me, I don't have a soft way of doing it. You just need to be brave and move through it, remembering that, one, not only are you bringing your gifts online and serving the world, you're also healing your bloodline. So you just have to start moving through it, because kind of like, what choice do we have? What choice do we have in terms of that? But I know with you, Gogo, with the work that you do as a therapist, like, you've got a gentle way of nudging people through their work. I find that when we do a consultation, whether it's with a psychic or a healer, when they're able to point us to where's the fear, why are we feeling that way, and what are we trying to bring to life, it becomes an easier path to do that. And we start with small steps, right? That's why we cleanse you, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through medicine, right? So that you softly and gently move towards what your gift is. Yeah. So my short answer is move through it one step at a time. And each time, whenever you pass through a little stage where you're proud of yourself, do something that gives you absolute joy, right? So that you can celebrate that in order to move to the next step. But I promise you, as you move through the journey, it gets easier, because you're becoming stronger in your gifts as well.
Yeah, I love that. This is connected to another question that was asked on Instagram about how can a healer heal their wounds while they're healing others? Because I think they're interconnected, because you will find that when you are in this path, your wounds will come up, and the purpose of that is actually for retrieval. It's for us to retrieve our soul fragments that are lost in, dark moments, dark experiences, traumatic experiences. Either they happened to us or they happened to our ancestors, right? So you'd find that this path feels painful because we are meant to first retrieve all these fearful aspects of ourselves, this shadow of ourselves, and basically bring them back home. Because the thing is, we are afraid of the fearful voice or the doubtful voice, but we're not going beyond it and asking it, what do you bring? Because even the fear is bringing you information, it's bringing you knowledge, it's bringing you, it's reflecting some parts of yourself that is disconnected from spirit, from God, right? So instead of running away from it, because most of us, that's what we do, we get busy, we just do everything to suppress. For me, as someone who is a spiritual healer, who also is a psychologist, the most important thing when we're speaking of embodiment and integration is, as healers, we need to learn to feel. Like, it's the most powerful thing, but we are actually the top 1 people who run away from that, because there is a lot of things we know we're going to feel, right? Some of the feelings are not ours, like Gogo was saying, right? But this is where the light is going to come in, right? The thing is, our bodies are dense with trauma, that dense with the pain, with the false ideas, ideologies, belief systems, and what we often speak about ascension and going up in the higher realms, getting enlightened. But I've had other teachers teaching it differently in ways that was resonant, which is that we're actually not going anywhere up. The light is descending into the body. Your higher self are descending into your body. And for them to fully merge, for you to merge with this higher wisdom, we need to clear the dense emotions, right? So the fear and the doubt, it's also moving away from identifying with the fear and the doubt and feeling like, oh my God, I'm fearful. And see it as a problem just came up. Like there is something at fault in my body. I need to remove it. That's it. It's not you. It's a program coming up. So
But
felt like I
also,
needed to say.
yeah, so I just wanted to add to that. Also, our guides, our ancestors, they also don't like wasting energy, right? So we must also meet them halfway in terms of how we also raise our vibrations, which is exactly what you're talking about in terms of this dense body, allowing it to be light so that they can descend. So if we can be in our embodiment and do our work here on earth, they're going to aid us with that work. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. And Gogo, what are your thoughts on this question? Because I think they can be feeling guilty and feeling like I can't be doing this because I have wounds as a healer. So the question, how can a healer heal others, heal their wounds while they're still healing other people? How do we navigate this?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I don't think that people who have not worked on their wounds, especially the wounds that have to do with the lower chakras, should be working with people in some processes that are intense. Because what starts happening is we start merging our trauma. And the biggest key to that you can find is if a person cannot move away from their stories to speak to your pain and to speak to your trauma, I would say kind of step away until people work through that pain. However, if it's for lighter processes, right? Because they're able to show you that if you do 1, 2, 3, then you're gonna find your way. Then for me, that's okay. So if you're probably at the beginning stages where you need to find a way, you're probably gonna find it within people's wounds, right? To say, oh, I was also fearful and I tried this and it worked, right? Because you're still at that point where you're experimenting with different things. But as you move through the journey, look to people who speak to principles, to ideologies, to downloading information. And I think for me, that's the beautiful part about being people that are melanated, because we've got a wide range of perception. We've got many places where we can look for answers outside of ourselves, right? We're able to look for those answers in dreams and in visions, because for me, even when I work with people that are patients, right, they will say, Gogo, I had a dream about you. And it will also bring in revelations around that. So look for the source of information. If the source of information is personal stories, that's not going to help anyone. But if it's universal principles and it's working from a space of where we are channeling the answers, that's why part of the other healers that we have, right? Look at the different healers that we have. If they're channelers, yes, you can kind of like be injured, but if you're channeling from a pure space and from pure spirit, then do that. A big part of how we work with spirit is, how do you feel around that person? How do you feel around that woundedness? Does it elevate you, right? Are you at the beginning stages? Then you can work with people like that. But I would be very discerning around that, yeah. What are your thoughts?
So important. It's definitely so very important to be discerning in this path and to to recognize that it's all about the four bodies, about how, yes, sometimes we can initiate, spiritually go through spiritual initiations, and we can get the trainings that we need, we can graduate, we can have the knowledge, the practical knowledge of how to heal someone, we can have the theories, right? But are we able to hold space, sacred space, for another soul
Yes.
who is healing very deep trauma? Are we
Yes.
able to be there as a guide, not as this is the way, I'm the healer, I will heal this for you, but as a guide, truly for the person to heal themselves? Are we at a point where we also understand? I always talk about the ethics that are also part of any healing practice.
Absolutely.
That we also need to talk about as healers, even though our practices are not governed so much by a particular body of governance or something like that. There is also, we need to know that as healers, we are working with souls and we're working with human beings, and what we tell people, what we take people through processes can harm people. It's so important to become aware of the responsibility that we have as healers, so that we can understand, to know our limitations, and to know that it's not about us, it's not about our egos and wanting to say, but I'm a healer, I must do it, but to be able to say, I am not yet at the level that I need to be at to hold space for this person. And so let me recommend this person in rather, right? It's so important, because this is human beings. This is the children of God, and we do not have any right to disrupt anyone's power, anyone's healing journey, just because we feel like, I'm a healer, though I should do it, right? So as healers, it's imperative that we heal ourselves. It's imperative to recognize that even though we are vessels of spirit, when spiritual information is downloaded through our information comes through a gateway, which is called the stellar gateway, and it serves through it the soul, and it drops into the crown chakra, where it will interact with your mental body. So meaning that you are going to, most of the time, what we see is not actually 100% of what spirit has given us, because we are serving from our perception as human beings. So if you are still wounded, still have a limited perception, you're going to tell people from the level of your awareness, from the level of your perception, which might not necessarily be healing or in alignment with what another person needs. So this is why it's important for us to work at healing ourselves, and like what you're saying, constantly elevating our awareness, our consciousness, learning, going deeper within, connecting deeper within, because we are our first teachers, we are our first guides.
Yeah, I love that, Gogo. And I think for us as well, as we grow in our gifts, also pushing away the old codes of the wounded healer. I think that is an old code that no longer serves us. That's why if we are embodied, right, and if we are in full understanding of who we are as people, how we exist in the world, and what our role is, we can actually move swiftly and gently within that space. For me, when I get my deepest downloads, they're not from books, they're not from people. It's from the spirit guides that guide me. So we've got spirit guides that we were born with, right? That when we were birthed, they were there with us from the beginning, and they're still walking with us. They're spirit guides that we meet along the way, and they come to help us at different points of our lives as well. So look to that first before you look to the next person. And you'll find that with these guides as well, they will show us the person that can also work with our energy. So please, please be discerning around who you work with, around who you're giving your energy to. Because what happens is, because all this work happens on a subtle level, you don't want to be giving away your power as well.
Mm.
There was just another
Still on
question
that, just
about
I think,
books. Okay.
yeah, I was in, it's still connected to this, the conversation we're having. At what point do you move from healing yourself to healing other if you are called, without being caught in the self-healing space?
Such a good question. Such a good question. It depends. What is your gift? What is your medicine that you're bringing to the world? So, you know how back in the day when we recognized that we had a person who was gifted in the village, in the community, would take them aside from when they were young, so that when they came of age, right, they would have high self-esteem, they would know their role. So self-healing and then healing others, the cues come as you go along. What is your medicine? Not everybody is meant to heal everybody, because for some people that work, it looks like, because it's very subtle, it looks like it's work on the self, but it's actually work in anchoring the earth, right? Because within that, and I think an easy example is the cloistered nuns or the monks who don't mingle with anybody, and their work is to pray for the earth and to ground the earth so that the vibrations raise. So just look, if your medicine is to go deeper and do that work for the earth, then that's your medicine. However, how do you know now if it's time to heal other people? Opportunities just present themselves. That's why for me, I say be careful about appropriating other people's gifts. Let's say, for instance, I go and I learn Reiki healing. I have to constantly advertise for people to come and take up my services. But if I am grounded in my own gifts that I was given from my lineage and from my bloodline, because they know what they need to do with the gifts, then I'm going to meet people along my path and they're going to seek me out without me going out to find them. And that's how I start doing the work. So we do the work that's presented to us, in as much as we're born with the gifts, right? That we don't go and seek them out. We go deeper to find the gifts. When it's time to help other people, we also don't go out to help other people. Clues start coming in. So we need to think of this healing space and holding space in a different way, because Mother Earth, the universe, the world, higher power knows that we are needed. And the moment that we step into our gifts and we step fully and truly into it, and we keep going through that circle of self-correction, right? Of coming in and fixing ourselves, we know that the people are going to come. We know the clues are going to come, because sometimes it's not about helping people. Sometimes it's about helping the planet. So those opportunities are going to come. So let's not think of it as well in a linear way. As long as you're grounded in your work, and as long as you are clear that you found your soul purpose, then it's going to come. The work is going to come that's associated with that, in whatever form it is.
Mm. And typically what happens is when you do start to heal yourself, you are removing all these fears, all these doubts, all the false inorganic programs within you, and all the trauma. And your intuition just naturally gets very sharp. You begin to hear more of the directions of your higher self, your guide. So they will tell you, you will know, because you have the doubts won't be there anymore. So as you heal, you also are sharpening your intuition, your psychic gift. So you will know. It will feel very like, I know it's time.
Organic. Absolutely. And I am against performative healing, because a lot of our work really happens on a subtle level. So allow those little messages to come and be your guides.
Okay. Oh, this is so good. Thank you so much. Oh, Gogo, this has been so wonderful. Did we answer all the questions from Instagram?
I think so. I tried to incorporate it into the discussion. I think we did.
Yeah. Yes, Facebook is just saying, wow, this is insightful. Wow, this is that's very exciting.
Good.
And Khulumenzi is so grateful for this conversation. And yes, he's watching with us right now. So this is wonderful. And just confirming if we answered all questions on here. Yes, yes, we did. Okay. Oh,
Perfect.
this is good. Okay, just one last question. To expand the word performative healing. Performative.
Performative healing for me is not embodied healing. Actually, Gogo and I had a conversation last night about, see, what happens is a lot of us come into our gifts with a lot of pain. So when we get to the other side, whatever the other side means, we keep saying, but I am a powerful healer. But I am this. Look at what my ancestors are doing through me. Look at what I am able to do. You know, think of the Pentecostal churches with the miracles that are becoming bigger and bigger to show off, right? So that they draw the crowds. That is performative when you're putting on a performance. So the performance comes before the spirituality. And I am quite passionate about this is we've stopped, it feels like sometimes we do not seek the face of the creator. We do not seek to ground ourselves in Mother Earth. We do not seek to ground ourselves in the universe and in the bigger picture. And it becomes about, this is what I can do. Our gifts are not for us. Our gifts are not for us to perform with them. So even if I'm able to lay hands on people and make people feel better, why do I need audience to do that? Again, it is in the subtle realms that we're able to heal people. If you speak to grounded healers and people who astral travel, nobody asks them to take the journey to go and heal the next person. Spirit knows because everything happens on a subtle level. And this is where the deepest changes happen. If we're shouting from the rooftops about it, it means we're not meditating ourselves into being. We're not meditating healing into being. We're just shouting from the rooftops. At what point do we draw ourselves back from that and actually come and do the healing work? Because if we're constantly going within ourselves, connecting to nature, connecting to our guides, connecting to the creator, connecting to the essence of who we are, then we're going to become more meaningful and more insightful. Do you know that there's a tribe in Sudan? And I think sometimes we don't understand the power of having melanin and the energy that it gives us. There's a tribe in Sudan, because they are so melanated, blue, black almost, they're able to walk through walls, through cave walls. That is how they're able to play with their energies. So we've forgotten the greatness and the grace of our power, that we always think that if we are screaming, remember, the more we are screaming, what we're bringing to the fore is the warrior energy. And we're ignoring all the other energies that we embody, the other energies that we walk with. So can we stop activating similar gifts and actually going deeper into the other gifts that actually sit within the subtle realm? I hope I've answered that. Yeah.
Oh, it's so powerful, Gogo. I love it so much. The thing is, as African people, we have royal codes, and royal codes meaning in the entire universe. You know, we are so powerful, and we are the race that has been here through the beginning of time, right? We can pinpoint the original DNA in the Khoisan, in the original people. So when you understand how powerful we are, when we understand the power of our ancestry, of our DNA, then we would then move away from wanting to activate our gifts in the same way and look a certain way, because there must be a reason why there are a billion of us, and there must be a reason why we have survived through wars, through all forms of oppression, and we're still here standing, right?
Absolutely.
And when we speak of how we're going to change Africa, it's us. It is every single one of us allowing our codes, this royal codes, to manifest in the ways that they're meant to manifest, and to not rush them and not identify with them, because we're also talking about how really we must always also know that ultimately this work is about connecting to God, to our creator, and really bringing us, all of us, into awareness of this, of our true power, our true connection, even if it feels like, no, we're not connected to God. This is the whole purpose, is for us to become aware that we have always been connected to our ancestors, connected to the spirit realm, connected to God. And this is, you can look at all the issues of the world in however way you want, but you will realize they're all about this, right? So if we could come in devotion to the greater, inner, deeper spirit, or that is moving within us, that is wanting to work through us, and then stop identifying as this is me, like you're saying, we can do so much. We can create so much change in the world. So, this this is so good. This has been very meditative. I've actually been feeling like I'm in a meditation, Gogo. Like it's the energy, and it's interesting because everyone has been saying this has been so subtle and expanded. Like we just want to listen to you. So
Thank you. I don't have
thank
loud
you
energy, so I embrace the energy that I have, which is soft. So I'm good with that. Yeah.
right? Yeah, there are no words. This is from Nombula on Facebook. She's like, there are no words to describe the light she embodies. And
Thank
no
you.
truer words have ever been spoken.
Thank you.
Yes. And for people who are resonating with you, Gogo, and would like to, if they feel called, because once again, the one thing I love about you, Gogo, is you're like, they will come, like it's about resonance,
Absolutely.
But for someone who's feeling like I really resonate and I want to connect, can you share with us a little bit on how they can connect with you? If you have any offerings coming up for those who might want to come for those offerings.
Okay. Thank you, Gogo. So my page, my website is herluxurioushealing.com. And then on Instagram, it's Her Luxurious Healing. Why the word luxurious? I think before we go into anything, it's exactly what you're talking about. So if you feel drawn to your ubukhosi, your kingly codes, right? Because luxury is who we were, luxury is who we are, because we are artisans and we are creators of our world. And we do that from the deepest love that we embody. So if that resonates with you, follow me on Instagram. I do a lot of stories. I like exploring a lot of ideas about how we can heal by being deliberate in our lives. I discourage people from having consultations, and people get annoyed by this. So if you contact me for a consultation, I'm first going to send you to do a bit of homework, and then we can come back and have a meaningful conversation. My next offering along the paths of healing the self, which is going to be a Zoom call on the 31st of October, is about how do we cleanse and release energy. I spoke earlier about embodying energy that is not yours, or when you've misused your gifts, or when your gifts have been violated. How do we cleanse that? How do we operate in the world as people who are light energy, so we are not dense and we allow all those godly codes to come into us? How do we make sure that our kids are also cleansed, because they go out into the world and collect these energies come into the home? How do we also cleanse that energy? And even on that, please, I'm going to make one request. Don't argue with anyone in your home. That energy just sticks everywhere, right? And it makes everything in your home icky. and your home is the place where you're supposed to be your best self, the place where you're supposed to go and recharge. And if you can do that one thing, you're actually going to see that your life is going to be lighter. So that's the offering that I have on the 31st of October. Yeah, thank you, Gogo, for this. Thank you so much for giving me space to share and for allowing my guides to do what they love to do.
Yeah. Ooh, this was so good. I enjoy your wisdom, the wisdom of your guides. I swear I feel like I was in a very deep meditation, like my body is so activated.
Of course.
Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your life, for your grace, and for saying yes to my request to come and share this beautiful transmission and wisdom that is so important and necessary right now in our lives.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for creating this space. And for me, my hope for you is, your work grows bigger, because I know you're very passionate about archiving the work. And I would encourage that people who listen to this work that you offer so generously for free, I think if people are able to also help you financially with this so that you can also expand your work. I appreciate you so much and the work that you do. Thank you for stepping into your gifts and answering your call as well.
You're going to get me emotional. Thank you so much, Gogo.
Of course.
Thank you so much. This is, yes, definitely how I feel in the world through these conversations. And we are doing this every Tuesdays and Fridays at 5 p.m. So if you would like to come, this is our 5th episode. So we've had the 3 other speakers and more coming. And we're doing this until end of November for the first season of Warriors of Light show. And so you can come and join us every Tuesdays and Fridays on Zoom. If you've already subscribed and registered, you can come to the same link. And yeah, we are so excited, all of us really, to bring back the royal codes of the melanated human, the Black human, the African human, because it's time. It's about time.
It is.
Yes.
Marcus.
Thank you, everyone. Marcus. Good night.